apparently Prime Hydration is being sued. Now, before we get into this video, yes, I'm wearing a shirt that makes me look like an op. I am coming into this with an unbiased perspective as to what's happening. I don't know. I have no ill will or feelings toward the company and or the creators of Prime. I'm genuinely curious to see what is going on with Prime and why they're getting hit with lawsuits. The first one that I saw, Editor Leo, you can put this as a swipe across, was that the Olympic Committee or some committee involved with the Olympics sued Prime for, I think, using the likeness or images of the Olympics to promote Kevin Durant, who is one of the Prime athletes. That one to me was pretty simple that you shouldn't do. Like, that one was like, bro, how do you not know you can't use like Olympic symbolism on your stuff? Like, that's a huge no-no. I didn't understand why they went that route, but, you know, obviously they got sued. But there's a new one out right now. There's a new lawsuit, not toward Logan Paul, not toward KSI specifically, but toward Prime. Apparently, they're being sued for $68 million by a bottling company for breach of contract. And here's the article. Let's take a look. Logan Paul and KSI's Prime Hydration. Okay, the first off, before we even get into anything else, I can understand why KSI and Logan get very upset when their name is associated with lawsuits. Because, yes, they are the visual representatives of this company, but they are not the only owners of this company. If you say Prime, you associate it with Logan Paul and KSI. More so Logan, to be fair. Like, a lot of people associate Prime with Logan. To be fair, I've said multiple times, I do think he is the face of Prime, but I think they're only minority owners in the company. Like, they're not the majority owners of the company. So it's kind of like, damn, every time Prime gets hit with something, it's like, oh, Logan again. Oh, KSI. You know, it's like, okay, this may not be necessarily their fault. But we're going to see. It's been sued for $68 million for breach of contract by a bottling company after Prime allegedly backed out of the deal they had made. According to the lawsuit, on August 2nd, 2024, the deal between Prime and Refresco Beverages called for the company to spend large amounts of money to change its production line to create special bottles used by the influencer-led brand. All right, so essentially, Prime had contracted this company to, I guess, reproduce their Prime bottles, and because the shape of their bottles is unique, or maybe they wanted a specific new shape of the Prime bottles, maybe they were doing like a new line that they contracted this company for, and then I guess apparently backed out of the deal. Interesting. Due to the amount of money invested in this production line, the two companies allegedly, okay, big word, allegedly agreed on a minimum order commitment. If they didn't hit, I can't read. Why do I do these things where I have to read? I can't read. If they didn't hit, okay, I'm not the idiot here, right? I don't know. Take the agreed upon orders from Refresco, Prime would have been required to pay a set amount of money per case. This is a quote. If defendants did not purchase and take delivery of at least 90% of the agreed upon annual volume commitment for each of the 3 contract years, defendants would be obligated to pay Refresco a fixed shortfall amount for each 12-bottle case below the volume commitment that defendants did not purchase. So if they didn't meet a certain requirement, which I guess was 90%, they were going to have to pay Refresco a specific amount for each 12-bottle case that I guess didn't meet that number in a year-over-year amount, which is, I guess, where you get the $68 million. That's pretty crazy, dude. Refresco is seeking $67,710,000 in damages due to Prime allegedly backing out of the contract. They're asking for interest as well, which is another, $300,000 it looks like. This lawsuit against Prime is part of a growing list of legal issues facing the influencer-led drinking company. Very, very interesting. I saw the Forever Chemical ones. That's not a big deal to me. But I also got a hold of the actual suit. So again, what I talked about a second ago is why I'm like, all right, bro, like sometimes this is not necessarily to do with Logan or KSI. In fact, I don't know how much of the decision-making process they would even have when it comes to something like bottle distribution, right? Or a company like Refresco doing this. They are a part of a conglomerate ownership, to the way I understand it, with Congo Brands, who KSI and Logan don't have any specific ownership of. They are the other owners of Prime. And I assume the ones making the decisions on these type of issues. And I don't think, him and JJ are like, I can't believe we went with Refresco. I think that's, again, the part of Congo Brands who's trying to handle all of this like distribution, and we got to get a partner here, bottles here, like all that stuff. I don't think they're going day to day with Logan and JJ. This point right here, point number 4, it says, at the time the parties negotiated and entered into the Truesdale agreement, Truesdale, I think, being the location where Refresco operates its bottling facility that it was going to dedicate to Prime. In early 2023, the sales of defendants' then relatively new Prime branded products, which were marketed with the names and influence of defendants' social media celebrity co-founders, had grown rapidly, and defendants represented to Refresco that the sales volume would remain robust and continue to grow. Now, here's the interesting part. This is being alleged by Refresco. This is not me saying this. Fresco or Refresco is alleging this. Over the course of the year following that contract signing, however, the formerly hot sales of Prime sports drinks cooled markedly. By early 2024, the sales of Prime beverages were falling well below defendants' expectations. Drivers of those declining sales included seasonal declines in demand for sports drinks that defendants had failed to predict, and even more problematically for Congo/Prime, the fading of the social media buzz that had powered the rapid initial increase of Prime Hydration in sales in 2022 and early 2023. I don't know this to be true in any way, what has been said there. I have no idea. Does anyone know what Prime sales look like from that time period we're talking about? The middle of 2023 to now? I don't know. And again, it wouldn't be unrealistic. You're talking about a startup company, a hydration company that is a big time launch, right? And I think Logan's even talked about this. Like, it's very hard to keep your company at the same position that the launch was in, right? It's very hard to keep it consistent. So it's not necessarily even unheard of that they probably had a dip in sales. But I do wonder how much that dip is and where Prime is operating at right now. They do have a ton of sponsored athletes. It feels like they're everywhere. Everywhere I look, they have Kevin Durant, they have Speed, they have Zlatan. No, do they have Zlatan? No. Holland. They have this other women's soccer player. They have Pat Mahomes. They have Bud Crawford. They have Volkanovski, Israel Adesanya. There's so many of these guys, and they have even teams that are sponsoring them. I don't know, or they're sponsoring teams. I don't know how much of that is into their budget, but $68 million is not a low number, even for Prime, who was evaluated at $1 billion company. That's still not a low number. So with that in mind, and the fact that they're saying that Prime is not selling the way it was at launch, it's very interesting, man. Yeah, so there's a lot here that essentially is just going to be like Refresco presenting their case, talking about spot orders and how they specifically made equipment so that they could make these type of bottles that Prime wanted. To do that, Refresco had to re-outfit their entire facility to do so, to, I guess, commit to the order that Prime wanted. Prime did not live up to their end of the agreement, and potentially, again, according to Refresco, saw their sales numbers dropping and did not want to commit to the number they had originally said, so backed out of the deal entirely. Again, the bigger picture here isn't the lawsuit itself. Whether they're right, whether they're wrong, I have no idea. What happens with the amount of money they're asking for versus what they actually should be getting, and if the deal was even agreed upon and true to begin with, I don't know. But what you're seeing here more and more, and this is probably the more concerning part, is that Prime keeps finding itself in lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And my question is that because of Logan Paul and KSI's notoriety? Because I think you could have said that remember back when they had the caffeine issue, which was a bullshit accusation leveled at Prime. Like, oh, their caffeine is killing kids. Like, no, it wasn't. It never was. Prime had the amount of caffeine in its caffeinated drink, and maybe they could have done a better job of differentiating the two, but one's in a fucking can, one is in a bottle. It had the same amount of caffeine as a Celsius, as a, Monster, as not the same, Monster's a little bit less than a Bang Energy. That was never the issue. But those were easy targets because Logan and KSI were involved, and you could point the finger and say, it's because of Logan Paul and KSI, my kids want Prime, and I bought them this caffeine. That's bad parenting. It's not because of Logan KSI, but that's the way it was framed. This one is not an attack on the company because of Logan Paul and KSI. This one doesn't seem like a lawsuit framed in the manner of KSI Logan Paul. Even though it's reported this way by Bloomberg, this seems to be very much a Congo Brands versus Refresco issue. Again, I don't know who's the inner workings of who's setting up the bottling agencies, but it just seems to be even the Olympic thing. Like, how do you not know you can't use Olympic symbolism on your bottles? How do you not know that's copyrighted content? Is this one of those things where Prime is making so much money, allegedly, potentially, I don't know, that they just don't care? Like, they'll just handle this stuff and settle it? Or is it one of these things where they're just careless? Because we talked about yesterday with Logan specifically, a lot of the stuff he does seems a little bit on the legal side and on the, team side, sometimes careless. And it's like, kind of half-assed. I hope that's not the case with this, where they just agreed to do something and then went, yeah, whatever, we don't care. You can even have it in writing. We just don't want to do it. Because it's not it's one, not a great look publicly for the company, and two, I don't know how many people want to continue to be associated with the headache that comes along with it. So I don't know. It just is weird, man. It's weird that they keep getting hit. And I'm sure, again, because it's KSI and because it's Logan Paul, I want to say this. I want to make it very clear. I'm sure that we're hearing about a lot more of this because Logan Paul and KSI are associated with the brand. I'm sure Coca-Cola is in lawsuits every day. I'm sure Pepsi's in lawsuits every day. I'm sure Gatorade, I'm sure a lot of these companies are hit with lawsuits on a daily basis. So it could just be that we're hearing about a lot of this because it's Logan and KSI as the, touted owners, even though they're not the only owners of the company. It just is not a good thing in any way to be associated with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Do I think it's going to hurt Prime as a brand? Probably not. Do I think that this is in any way, shape, or form valid? I have no idea. We're going to see. I just don't think it's a good idea to continue to put themselves in positions where lawsuits are hitting them left and right. And for Logan especially, and again, this isn't a Logan lawsuit, but for him especially, he is in court with everybody, man. And whether it's going to take a toll on him or not, as far as the legal side, that's got to take a toll on your mental. That's got to take a toll on your physical. It has to. Whatever happens with this, we'll stick around and find out. But Prime's getting sued again, and it's not a good thing. What happens after that? I guess we'll find out.